Think about this for just 1 second. You woke up this morning. You made coffee. You maybe checked your phone. And every single one of those moments is now gone forever. You cannot go back. Not even 1 second. And the crazy thing is, nobody, not Einstein, not Newton, not any physicist alive today, could fully explain why. Until now. Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about something that sounds almost too simple to be interesting. Time moves forward. Yeah, okay, we all know that. But here is the thing, according to the fundamental laws of physics, time doesn't have to. The equations of physics work just as well running forward as they do running backward. And yet, you have never seen a broken egg leap off the floor and reassemble itself back into a perfect shell. You have never watched smoke rush back into a cigarette. You have never unspilled a cup of coffee. So what is going on? Why does time seem to have this one-way arrow pointing only into the future? This is one of the deepest mysteries in all of science. And a man named Brian Greene, one of the most brilliant physicists and science communicators alive today, has spent years trying to crack it open in a way that actually makes sense to the rest of us. And what he found, what the science is pointing to, is genuinely mind-bending. So buckle up, because we are going deep today. Let's start at the very beginning. Not the beginning of your day, but the beginning of everything. About 13.8 billion years ago, something happened. We call it the Big Bang. And in those first few moments, the entire universe was packed into a space smaller than a single atom, unimaginably hot, unimaginably dense. And here is the key word: unimaginably ordered. Everything was perfectly, almost impossibly organized. And then it exploded outward. And as it expanded, it began to do something very natural. It began to spread out, to mix, to disorder. And that process, that slow, relentless march from order into disorder, that is the secret engine behind the arrow of time. Now let me slow down here, because this is where the real magic lies. There is a concept in physics called entropy. You don't need to memorize the word. Just think of it this way. Imagine you have a brand new deck of cards, perfectly sorted, aces through kings, all four suits in order. That deck is in a very low entropy state. It is organized, specific, rare. Now you shuffle it. And after a few good shuffles, what do you get? A random mess. High entropy. Disordered. And here is the thing. There are millions upon millions of ways for that deck to be disordered, and only one single way for it to be perfectly sorted. So if you just keep shuffling randomly, disorder always wins. Not because the universe hates order, but simply because there are so many more ways to be disordered than to be ordered. That is entropy. And Brian Greene's insight, which he lays out with breathtaking clarity, is that the arrow of time is essentially the arrow of entropy. Time moves forward because entropy increases. Because the universe is always shuffling from order into disorder. From low entropy into high entropy. From the rare into the common. And we experience that as the passage of time. But wait, because here is where the question gets even more interesting. If entropy just naturally increases, if disorder is just statistically overwhelmingly more likely than order, then why did the universe start out in such an incredibly ordered state in the first place? Why was the Big Bang so perfectly, so suspiciously, so almost impossibly organized? Because think about it, if entropy just naturally increases, then going backward in time, entropy should decrease. And if you trace it all the way back, the Big Bang had to be at an extraordinarily low entropy starting point. And nobody fully knows why. Greene calls this the past hypothesis. The idea that the universe simply began in a state of extremely low entropy. And that one single fact, that one cosmic starting condition, is what gave birth to the arrow of time as we experience it. Every moment of your life, every memory you've ever made, every cause that has ever led to an effect, all of it flows from that one astonishing initial condition at the birth of the universe. Let me give you a thought experiment that Brian Greene loves to use. Imagine a movie of a swimming pool. Someone dives in. Water splashes dramatically in every direction. Now play the movie backward. You see a perfectly shaped splash rise up out of the water. The diver flies up out of the pool, lands on the diving board. It looks completely absurd, physically impossible. And yet, here is the shocking part. The individual water molecules in that backward movie are doing nothing that violates the laws of physics. Each individual molecule bouncing and colliding is behaving perfectly legally. The laws of physics don't care about direction. But the overall pattern, the big picture behavior, looks ridiculous when reversed. Why? Because the probability of all those molecules randomly organizing themselves into a perfect outward splash is so astronomically low that it would essentially never happen in the lifetime of the universe. So it's not that the laws of physics forbid the past. It's that statistics make it so crushingly unlikely that we never see it. That is entropy. That is the arrow of time, playing out right in front of your eyes every single day. Now let's go deeper, because here is something that will genuinely mess with your head. Your memories only go in one direction, toward the past. You remember yesterday. You do not remember tomorrow. And that feels completely obvious. But stop and think about why that is. The reason you have memories of the past and not the future is because memory formation is itself an entropy-driven process. When your brain encodes a memory, it is creating a low-entropy record of a high-entropy event. It is leaving a trace, a physical imprint, and that only works in the direction of increasing entropy, which is forward in time. So in a very real, very physical sense, memory itself is a product of the arrow of time. Your entire sense of having a past, of being a self with a history, it all exists because entropy increases. Because the universe started in that mysteriously ordered state 13.8 billion years ago. And this is where Brian Greene takes things to a place that is almost philosophical. He asks, what does it even mean to say that time flows? Because in the equations of physics, there is no flowing. Time is just another dimension like space. The past, the present, the future, they all exist equally real in what physicists call the block universe. Your birth, this moment right now, the last day of your life, they are all laid out there, fixed like cities on a map. And what we call the flow of time, that feeling of moving from one moment to the next, from now into then, that might just be a product of how our brains process an entropy-increasing universe. Not a fundamental feature of reality. Just a story our minds tell us. That is not scary. That is actually kind of beautiful. Because it means this moment, right now, this exact second, is real. It is permanent in a way that nothing can undo. The past is not lost. It is just behind you on that map. And the universe is still unfolding, still moving from that impossibly ordered beginning toward whatever comes next, carrying you along with it, through time, through entropy, through this brief, brilliant, unrepeatable moment of existence. So why does time only move forward? Because the universe began in a state of extraordinary order, and it has been spreading out, mixing, and disordering ever since. Because entropy increases. Because statistics overwhelmingly favor disorder. Because your memories, your consciousness, your very sense of moving through time, all of it is written in the language of entropy. The arrow of time is not a law of physics. It is a consequence of where we came from. It is the shadow cast by the Big Bang, stretching all the way to this moment and beyond. And the next time you spill your coffee, and you watch it spread across the table and you sigh, just remember, you are watching the arrow of time in action. You are watching the universe do what it has been doing since the very beginning. Moving inevitably, magnificently, from order into the beautiful, complex, mysterious chaos that we call reality. If this blew your mind even a little, hit that like button, because it genuinely helps this channel more than you might think. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the biggest questions in science. And drop a comment below. I want to know, does it comfort you or unsettle you that the past is permanent? That somewhere on the map of the block universe, every moment you have ever lived still exists? Because here is the thought I want to leave you with. If the past never truly disappears, if it is always there, fixed in the fabric of space-time, then nothing you have ever loved is really gone. It is just behind you, and time is simply the journey forward into the unknown.